Welcome back to the show, everybody. I'm Gina.
And I'm Evo.
Happy Friday, everybody.
Happy Friday.
I hope everybody is having a great start to their weekend. Hoping for better. Yo, say that 3 times fast. Better
weather.
Thank you. Because honestly, I saw a meme today that made me laugh really hard, and it said something like, Spring, can you please fight? Because honestly, you are losing the battle right now when it comes to how we are feeling about the weather right now.
Definitely like a little bit of tug and war going on right now.
Yeah,
sure.
I literally had a full winter coat on yesterday when I was out and about, and it made me feel kind of sad. And I was just like, man, it's fine, but it's not fine. So I hope everybody is going to enjoy their weekend, and let's pray for some better weather. Got that down. Thank you. So today we have a really cool topic for you. It rolls off the back of last week, and that topic is single fathers versus single mothers. So last week we talked about dating as a single parent, and I got some feedback, and it came from our comments and some of the videos that we put out. And I noticed that there was definitely like a separation between what fathers were saying and what women were saying. And I found that dynamic interesting because I do know that there are some issues when it comes to being a single parent, especially a single father and a single mother, that maybe each other doesn't know about. In addition to that, I don't think a lot of people really understand the scope of some of the issues that single fathers go through. And unfortunately, that has to do with the fact that there are less single fathers overall when it comes to single parent households. And there are definitely some preconceived notions of what it is to be a single mother versus being a single father. And I would love to get into that. But what I will say is this. I once upon a time was a single mom. And when I thought about talking about this topic, my brain immediately went to a lot of the negative shit. You know, a lot of the things that happen to single mothers that seem unfair, that seem... That basically, when they're happening, there is a frustration and an anger behind it. And I didn't really want to get into that. I really just want to focus on the issues that both of these households and parents will face.
So can you just give a few examples? Because I'm a little curious as to what it is that you're referring to.
Well, because there are more single mothers, that means that there are a lot of households that have absentee fathers.
Okay.
So because there are more, and if we want to throw some numbers out there, like 14 million households in the United States are ran by single mothers versus 2 million households that are ran by single fathers.
Shout out to all the single mothers out there. And single fathers.
Yeah. So immediately when I think about that number, I think about all of the mothers that are really grinding every day to try to make shit happen for their children or child. And that is some of the frustration, and that is some of the anger, because there are so many of them out there that they're really just doing it alone. And I can attest to that. And from experience, when you first met me, a lot of the things that I had to go through when it came to the absentee parent. And those are some of the frustrations that I'm talking about. The lack of presence, the lack of caring, or just the lack thereof, or just being non-existent. There's a lot of that frustration. So I didn't really want to get into those deep, dark places because we can go there. But I think I just wanted to shed light on some problems that both parents will go through, whether you're a single mother or a single father. And there are definitely some gender biases that when I looked into it, I was like, damn, yo, that definitely happened to me once upon a time. And speaking for moms, I can tell you that one of the first things that really grinds my gears when it comes to being a single parent is that moms are always looked at as they can do it all.
I mean, they kind of can. Listen, you remember the video that I showed you of there was an Asian lady on a construction site,
Oh my God.
and she's got a baby swaddled to her back, and she's like in front of this conveyor belt, and there's bricks coming down this conveyor belt. And she's got like this what I can best describe as one of those things that you pick up blocks of ice with. It's got like a handle on it, and as soon as you pull the handle, it squeezes the two tips, and it grabs it. She was using that to grab bricks off of this conveyor belt and stack them on something next to her, and she has a baby swaddled to her back, and she's just like boom, boom. And I mean, this lady was moving like there was no baby on her back. I mean, it was impressive. So I just feel like that's a testament to, like, you know what, because like there's obviously a father somewhere to that baby.
I mean, maybe not.
Well, there is a father somewhere there. I mean, that baby seed came from somewhere, regardless whether it was through, you know, intercourse or whatever. But the thing is that in that dynamic, whatever the case may be, the baby's with the mother and she's out there, like nothing stopping her.
You know, Yvonne, that is something that years ago I've probably been like, yeah, fuck right, hell yeah. But now when I look at things like that, it makes me sad.
But you wouldn't. Okay, I'm not saying you would never, but I'm just saying that I've never, ever seen anything like that.
Yeah.
Where a man would have his baby, you know, on a construction site.
Yeah.
Working. What?
Well, there's reasons for that too. Why you feel like you will never see that, and that has to do with some of the gender biases when it comes to being a single father versus a single mother. In your mind, you're probably thinking, if you saw a mother with her child at work, whatever the environment was, maybe that wouldn't be so odd to you. But if a person saw a father with their small child at work swaddled to them, that would be extremely odd. Because of the way how society views a single father versus a single mother.
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
And I think you can speak to that.
Yeah, for sure. You know,
you were never a single father, but I think you can speak to what it's like being out and about with your child.
Yes, definitely. One instance in particular, I remember being down at the beach, and our daughter was, you know, months old. And, you know, I took her down to the beach, and the beach that we go to is a very, you know, it's not a walk on, you know, you drive down deep into the beach. And you're very far from like access to things.
Yeah. Like no bathrooms.
Yeah. There's no food or anything like that you could just walk, you know, and go get some food. Like you have to have everything with you. You have to come prepared. So I came as, you know, I brought the pop-up crib and everything, you know, and I set everything up, and I had a tent, and I had the crib, and, you know, I had all her stuff, her car seat and food, and she was all packed up, ready to go. I mean, I was prepared for it. And I met up with some friends over there, and I remember in particular one of the mothers was blown away. You know, that I had our daughter, at one point I had her swaddled up. She was in the shade, in her crib, fed, changed, and knocked out.
Yeah.
You know, and it was a beautiful, beautiful day on the beach. And I was just hanging out, chilling, you know, I was taking my time, but always, you know, not too far from her, but still like very relaxed, you know. It was just nothing to me.
Why was she so surprised?
She was surprised because she literally said to me, she was like, oh my God. She was like, I can't believe that you're here without your wife. And you're here with the baby. And I'm like, wow. She was, my husband would never.
Yeah. He
would never just take the baby and go and just take full responsibility of what the baby's needs are. While I was, you know, I think you were working that day. Of
course I was, because it was the weekend.
Yeah. And
that was old school Gina.
And I'm like, what? I was like, you can't tell me I can't go anywhere because like I got my baby with me. I mean, we're going. Yeah. You know, there was no telling me no. So like, it was just it was kind of foreign to me, but I remember lots of people being surprised. And yet, once they found out, you know, there was kind of like a praise behind it. Like, oh, wow, good for you. You know, that's awesome. You know, I can't believe, like, good job, you know, like, and I'm like, good job. Like, this is what I'm supposed to do. You know, I mean, that's just the way that I saw it. So, you know, yeah, there is definitely that double standard, you know, and so I see what you're saying, you know, why that would be odd to see a man with his baby at work, because it's not something that you typically see. Men are kind of like, and I hate to say this, but they're kind of expected to be like goofballs and like, clumsy and, not most.
You're speaking right to the biases that surround single fathers.
Not, logical thinkers and, and caregivers and things like that. And so there's no real expectation or pressure for them to be that type of parent.
Fathers are seen as less capable.
Yes, they are. And so there's really no big expectation for them, like, oh, you should be doing this with this child.
Yeah.
I felt the complete opposite.
Yeah, from day one.
Yeah, I remember even, swaddling her around my whole body and cleaning. I would clean around the house and I'd swaddle her, put her in for a nap, give her a bottle, wait till she was knocked out, and I'd have her wrapped up tight. And I'd be walking around the house doing dishes, straightening up, and she'd knocked out, And I loved it. I remember I posted a picture one time on social media, and I got some comments from guys on social media like, damn, bro, really? Like, and I just couldn't understand why they would feel otherwise. Maybe I look feminine to them. I don't know what it was. I had a Yankee hat on.
I remember.
I had a t-shirt on.
I know the picture exactly.
And she's all wrapped up, and I'm like, and I took a picture, and I forgot what the comment was that I put on it. But
it was one of those swaddles that you wrapped it to your body. It wasn't like a carrier.
Yeah, it wasn't like one that I had the straps or anything like that. That was me. No, I had to like do the actual wrap and make sure that I had her wrapped on all the secure points.
And you were actually better at that than I was. You were. I hated that thing.
I loved it. I loved it because once I had her in there nice and snug, it was like my arms were free. It was like, so I really made it a point to figure out how to do this thing properly, because I know like once I had her strapped in and my arms were free, oh my God, it was like I was free to do so many things. And so it was important for me to figure that out.
See, but Evo, you hit the nail on the head right there when you said that some of the guys may have thought that what you were doing seemed feminine.
Yeah, I guess it looked feminine to them. There was no,
what other than yo, bro? Like, what would that mean?
Yeah, I guess, and I kind of got it, but I didn't get it. Like, I didn't acknowledge it. I kind of like, had words back for them, like, bro, there was no place where I would rather my daughter be than strapped to my chest. You know what I'm saying? Close to my heart.
Yeah.
I guess it was because I had waited so long to have a child. It was something that I was an active decision that I did for so many years. And when I finally decided to do it, it was something that I wanted to do. I did it, at a time where it was wanted. And once I had it, I was more than grateful that it was there.
Yeah. So, like looking back at what I said is that mothers are expected to be able to do it all, which means we're expected to have our children, work, raise them, be involved in after school activities, be involved in sports, take them to the doctor, take them to the dentist. And at the same time, we're also expected to like still look the part. But when it comes to a single father, they tend to get a lot more leniencies. But what I find interesting is that a lot of these single fathers, they don't want these things. They don't want to be seen as, hey, look at you, good job. You said it yourself. That was not something, you were almost weirded out by it. These single fathers want to be seen as capable, as caretakers. They don't want to be seen as the less capable parent when it comes to the two-parent dynamic. Things are even said to single fathers like, oh, mommy couldn't make it. Very rare you hear that when a mother just presents with her child. Sometimes I actually even feel like it's a sensitive spot, if you address to a single mother, if you're not sure of what her circumstances are. Oh, daddy couldn't make it. Those comments are really not made to a single mother, but it's thrown all over the place when it comes to single fathers. there are other things that that single fathers will face that single mothers won't. And maybe people don't find this as so troubling, but something as simple as, I used to get very angry about this when it would happen to you, when you would go to certain establishments and there wasn't a bathroom that you could take our daughter to.
Right.
And the only option that you had was the men's room.
Yeah.
There wasn't a family room. And in the men's room, there was no place for you to change her diaper if you needed to. So you got very good at changing her diaper either in the car, in her stroller. Yeah. These are things that single fathers will face constantly. Where single mothers, no one blinks twice when a woman brings a little boy into the bathroom. Yeah. But if a man brings a little girl into the bathroom, that's a different story.
Let somebody look at me funny.
Well, sadly, men predominantly are the perpetrators when it comes to things that are done to young children.
Yes, you're absolutely right.
So that's why you may get a weird eye when people see those type of things happen. And it's understandable, but it's also unfortunate. Yeah. Because when you have a man like you, a father that just wants to take his child to the bathroom, and there's not a proper establishment for this man to do that, that's problematic.
Yeah, it can be.
As a single mother, there were times that I felt pressured to do it all. And I know that you said, yeah, they can. We don't want to. We don't want to have to do it all. It is actually proven that single mothers have poorer health, poorer mental health because of these circumstances that we sometimes fall into. So Lord knows, that's why I said, when you said the thing about the mother, moving the bricks, yeah, back in the day, I probably would have been, fucking right on. I'm not saying that we as women need the help, but is it something that we want? Yes. Can we do it alone? Yes. But I don't, in my perspective, and this is my perspective only, it's definitely not something that we don't look forward to that shit. It's not something that we're like, yeah, I want to have a child and raise it on my own and have all of the responsibilities placed on me. And if I, for 1 second, step outside or, flub, I'm looked at as less than as a parent. And single mothers, they receive a lot of criticism.
But this obviously falls back to the stigma that men are buffoons. Mm-hmm. And so if they're not perfect, if they don't do everything correctly, it's not really expected of them.
No.
And because mothers and women, I just feel like women in general are they're more detail oriented than men are. This is my personal opinion. Mm-hmm. There's no facts behind this. Please don't come for me. But, when it comes to parenting and the nurturing portion of it, there's just this higher expectation. It's almost like when you have, speaking for myself as a business owner, and I owned several businesses, and one of my businesses, where I had several employees, I would always put more weight on my top performers. Mm-hmm. Because I could get more out of them, and then I expected more of them.
Of course.
And then my employees that didn't perform so well, I didn't put so much burden on them because they would snap under the pressure. Mm-hmm. And also when they didn't perform 100%, I really wouldn't expect that from them. So their overall performance and how they had to go about work was just so much easier than it was for some of my top performers. Mm-hmm. And I feel like that's kind of like the dynamic that we're talking about here.
Well, yeah, that's for sure the dynamic. What's frustrating about that dynamic is because the less that you can rely upon the absentee parent. So say, for example, there is some sort of co-parenting happening between mother and father. And if one of the parents is less reliable, then that just means the more things that the single parent has to take on. And when you're a single mother, the view on how you should function within those parameters is looked upon more harshly. So, for example, if a single mother is unable to attend a school function, or she's not as active in the PTA, or the single mother is not present for all of her child's, accomplishments as far as like, maybe a sport or art or whatever it is. And when she is present, there are instances where she can experience comments or side eyes. Things of that nature don't tend to happen to the fathers. And that is why I was saying that single mothers can experience poorer health and poorer mental health because of that pressure to be a good mother.
Yeah.
Where the men don't have necessarily that pressure.
Sure. Yeah, I could see that.
And I think you and I spoke about this on the previous episode. One of the reasons why you feel that a mother may be very adamant about remaining with her children when a mother and father separate is because of that bond that she has with her child. So could you imagine that feeling of having to want to do it all for your child and give it all to your child, but you are limited with your capabilities because you're only human. You're only one person, especially if the other parent is not present. If, we're talking about a situation where there's an absentee father or an absentee mother, those things become detrimental to somebody. On the outside, we can look really put together, but on the inside, we could be fucking crumbling.
Yeah, it's a lot. I mean, it definitely sounds like a lot of pressure, especially when you have the social pressure of it on top. It's bad enough trying to be the best you can be this multi-hat wearing person. You're trying to execute these positions yourself just so that you can function on an optimal level. But then in addition to that, you have the added pressure of what society expects from you. And it's like a level of expectation that you're trying to meet in addition with playing these different roles, as a parent. I kind of feel like that, these pressures, although they are there, do they really exist if we don't acknowledge them?
I mean, that's easier said than done.
No, I know.
I
agree with you 100%.
And I so agree with what you're saying. 1000%.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, you're not.
I just feel like I needed to put that out there, because people deserve to hear that. People need to hear that. People who are like maybe feeling like they're up to their neck and just, trying to keep up. Does it really, it only, I feel like it only matters because one allows it to matter.
I think when it comes to being a single parent, you're going to experience pressure and stress no matter what. Because as a parent, you're going to experience it. I think the added pressure that you were saying of, outside influences is definitely something you can ignore to an extent.
Yeah.
Is it easy? No. I would say that in my later years, I've done a lot better of a job of that. But when I was younger, raising my boys by myself, it was always part of the equation.
Yeah.
I never wanted my children to be viewed as the children that didn't have an active parent in their life, regardless of the status of their father. So I made it a point to do as much as I could when it came to their schooling, after schooling, whatever it was. And it definitely put me sometimes in a mental place where it was too much.
Yeah, well, we went through something at one point, where you were like going nuts over trying to be on top of everything. And that just wasn't my style. And I specifically remember sitting you down and saying, look, you got to chill.
Yeah.
Like, it's okay not to like do everything.
I remember that situation exactly. I came home from work and I had cleaned the house the day before. It was my day off. And I came in, and when I opened the door, our front door at that time opened up into our living room. I remember walking in, and the living room was like kind of upside down. I remember fucking blowing a gasket because I just felt like I wanted everything to be in its place. And now this was causing chaos in my mind.
You felt that even though you had kids and you were working fucking 50,000 hours a week, that in addition to that, your house had to be spotless.
Yeah.
Nothing could be out of place. The kids had to be picture perfect, and your lifestyle had to be picture perfect. Everything needed to be in order, and it was just an insane amount of pressure that you were putting on yourself, you know?
It was unnecessary.
Totally unnecessary.
But I was also trying to fight a stereotype about who I was, the fact that I was a young mother, the fact that I was a Hispanic young mother, the fact that I was a Hispanic young mother to 2 black boys. So the statistics for at that time when I had my children, it was like 1 in 4 boys born to a young mother, especially a person of color, 1 in 4 will end up in prison by the time they were 18. I remember reading that statistic and when I was like 18 and being like, never. I will fucking fight tooth and nail to give my boys everything and anything that I can do that will increase their minds to understand that there is more for them in this world than what society says potentially will happen for them. And did I sometimes go too far? Yeah. I also just felt like, you know, there was that stigma of me being a young mother, me being a mother of color, where when I entered certain environments, I was looked at as not capable.
Yeah, well, I always felt that, you know, as long as I was doing my best without driving myself crazy, that's really all I can do. And anything more than that, I would be putting added pressure on myself, which would then affect my character, which would then at times affect the way that I acted around the people that I care about the most. And so I learned that too much is not good for me.
You know what is so interesting about what you just said is I'm reflecting upon a comment that we received on a video about not considering your children baggage. And 2 men commented. And to summarize what they said was, you can let me make sure I say this right. You can change the view of how people think children to a single mother are, but they will always be baggage. And then one of the examples that the commenter gave was, and the reason why they'll be baggage is because when I step into this single mother's life, I'm financially spending more money, thus putting more of a burden on me, and then in turn making the whole situation of being with a single mother less valuable. And when I tell you, I read that comment, I was like, First and foremost, I feel sorry for the woman that this man is with, because it sounds like he's in that situation. That's number 1. Number 2, I really pondered on that for a second, because I was like, wow, this man thinks that the children are baggage and the woman is less valuable because of the money that he has to spend. So what you just said to me made me think about what I wrote to this man. And I said, if you for one think that becoming part of a union with a man or a woman is about what you do for them financially, which means that you're associating material things to how valuable you see that person, I said, my friend, you are lost. I said, because in the 20 years that I've been with my husband, the things that I consider the most valuable are not tangible.
No.
And you just gave a perfect example of that. You said you knew that as long as you did the best that you could, that was enough. And you taught me that balance. And I found that to be one of the many things that I find so valuable about our relationship. You became the yin to my yang. And I think that that's the part that people are missing. You hear all these fucking idiots on social media talking about women lose value when they have children. And if you're associating value based on what a woman could give to you material wise, and not the value that a woman can give to you from who she is inside, I don't even know what the fuck you're doing with your life.
Well, that's an easy perspective to have for someone who is very material driven. There are people out there, and I'm going to speak, on behalf of men, that are their drive is to make as much money as they can to acquire the things that they want to acquire, thinking that is what brings them happiness. I like to say that money solves your money problems, and that's just about the gist of it.
For real.
And if you're a douchebag, you're still going to be a douchebag, but you're a douche with money. If you're not funny, you're still going to be not funny, but with money. If you're going to be corny, you're going to be corny, but with money. So and so people think that because they bring the money into the relationship, it provides a better lifestyle. But that's, like you said, that's only on a tangible level. What value are you bringing, personality wise, morally, all those things. Those are more valuable to me than the money, because you can't buy those things.
Evo, the day that I cross over to the other world and I reflect upon our relationship, do you think I'm going to look back and go, I really love that bag he gave me in 1999?
I mean, some women might think that. There's some women are very materialistic. Not you. I'm not saying that you're gonna do this, but
Evo,
that's
the most valuable things?
That's a thought. Listen, that's a thought that exists within a person that really only valued the person that they were with for the tangible things that they could give them.
But Evo, okay.
So take for example, take a person that is with another person solely for the money. Okay. Which they do. That does exist. So fine. In a past life, that person might be like, damn, that bag that he gave me that one day. Oh my God.
You're fucking ridiculous.
So
the one thing that is timeless is experience.
Yes.
Okay. So granted, a bag, I'm using a bag as a reference because, ladies like bags. And I think the reason why I use that reference because I'm not a bag person. I think I actually just have the bag that I have is not even a purse.
Right.
But anyway, experiences will always be with you. You can lose material things. You can lose a purse. You can lose a house. You don't lose experiences. They will always be part of you.
Well, unless you lose your memory.
And I know why you say that. I
struggle with memory. A little bit.
Yes, but do you understand? They do something to you. They change you.
They do. I'm joking. I totally understand what you're saying. I'm just adding some humor to it.
Yeah. I actually thought that came from a sadder place.
No, I mean, listen, I know that certain things, as I get older, I don't remember as many things as I would like to. There's certain parts of my life that, I may remember because something reminded me of them, but to say that I could tap into them like that, not as good as I used to be. That's just something that's part of my life, and I've learned to accept it. I can look at myself in the mirror and I accept that person that stands in front of me. Yeah. So, experiences are great, when you can remember them.
So I want to ask you a question because somebody asked me this question, and I haven't chosen to respond to this yet because I'm not ready to respond to it yet, but I want to ask you.
Okay.
And I'm going to ask you it towards me, but this is also about single mothers. Do you think that me and single mothers, that the reason why we end up being single mothers is because we are a bad judge of character? And I ask you this as a man because the person who asked me this question was a man. And this person said to me that the reason why I ended up being a single mother with 2 boys is because I'm a bad judge of character.
I think that is an idiotic statement to say just to one person, and to make that a blanket statement. As far as you, no. I don't think you ended up a single mother because of the decisions that you made.
Mm-hmm. But do you think I was a bad judge of character?
No, I don't. You know, there's
Okay, so separate from me, do you think that is why some women end up in that situation?
some women. Yeah, I mean, I would think so. I can't to say that to rule out that no woman has ever ended up a single parent because she was a bad judge of character.
Yeah.
You know, because a person wasn't gullible, or a person was gullible.
Yeah.
You know, a person doesn't have the ability to read people the way that some people do.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, probably, yeah. You know, it's sad to say, but I can see it being possible. But as far as, you know, speaking for yourself, absolutely not.
I find it interesting when men will make these assumptions about single mothers and why they're single mothers.
I think it's dumb for anybody just to make a blanket statement about, you know, a whole class of people. Because it's just, you can't do that. There's so many different dynamics that exist within a person's life, that to say that one thing is the rule for everybody is just dumb in itself. Like, you got to be stupid if you're going to be making comments like that. You have to, you know, like, I feel like a person needs to be aware enough that I really hate to say this, but there's 1,000 ways to skin a cat, you know. So there's just 1,000 ways that what they're saying can apply. I'm sorry, there's 1,000 ways that what they're saying can't be true or cannot be true.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and to think that, yeah, people like that are just stupid. You know, I hate to keep saying it, but it's just dumb to me to say something like that. And I say this because I used to make comments like that.
Mm.
You know, and I soon realized that you can't do that. You know, so I'm not just making this statement saying that, you know, like, I used to be part of that, you know, and I had to correct that within myself and give people credit. You know, that just because I'm saying something about a certain type of person, that doesn't apply to everybody.
Yeah. It can apply to some, not all. I think that's what you're trying to say.
That's exactly what I'm saying.
I think that's what you're trying to say. And I agree with you. I always find it interesting, though, that men have so much to say about single mothers. And it's almost something that is so frowned upon in the male sector. Why do you think that is?
Why do I think it's frowned upon in the male sector?
Why do you think that there's so much conversation surrounding single mothers and the value that they bring versus, like, saying being a single father? But why do you think that men have so much to say about this?
So, you know, raising kids is not the easiest thing to do. Mm-hmm. It's not something that's easy at all. But if done the right way with love and care and passion, you know, it can be a joy. Mm-hmm. There's just a lot of work that goes behind it. And I think that in this case, men in particular are not looking to put in the work into something that they don't see as belonging to them. Mm-hmm. And so it's looked at as, this person has something that if I want that person, I also have to take this other thing that they come with. Mm-hmm. And that's me putting work into something that I'm necessarily not interested in. So that's, you know, looking at it in that from that point of view, it's seen as a negative. Yeah. Like, I would like her, but I don't want that.
Yeah.
You know? So, like, damn, that sucks, you know? Mm-hmm. Why she got to go and have that kid? Mm-hmm. You know, like, she would be fine if, like, you know, if it wasn't for the kid, you know, because I'm not trying to be with the kid. I want to be with her. Mm-hmm. So, I would say that's probably one answer to it.
Yeah. When you say that, I'm going to tell you what I think about. I think men have a sense of fucking entitlement to the way a woman should conduct her life. Because men want access. And because when they can't get access to something, it frustrates them. Because men are so used to that. In addition to that.
When you say they want access to something,
yeah.
Like access to what in particular?
To the woman.
To her body.
And to her body and to her life. To what she can do for him. And when there are children involved, that may be seen as a hurdle. So then it may anger men that they have less access. So then they may see the woman as less valuable. Right? But then they like to have a lot of this negative conversation about single mothers. And they may, like you said, they may look at it as more work and something that doesn't belong to them, right?
Mm-hmm.
I totally understand that. So why is it that men are not having conversations with other men about not doing this type of shit? And what I mean by that is, if there are 14 million fucking households in this country ran by single mothers, why aren't men having conversation with other men about being better fathers and being more present? Because then there would be less single mothers. And I'm not saying this is not all, this is some, because I know that there are some great co-parenting fathers out there. But when it comes to the way men see single women and they have so much to say about it, why are they not talking to fucking men about this shit?
I think that it's very hard to put a finger on that being like that being the tipping point, that being the force of change in the perspective that you're talking about, because nobody really knows what dynamic happened between two people that ultimately resulted in them not being together. Could have been the girl's fault, could have been the guy's fault, could have been they mutually just decided that this was a mistake. No one really knows how much of that goes on. I mean, we do know that when it comes to the separation, the system places the kids with the mother, so that's a heavy weight on why you see more female households and also more female women, that's why you see more women single parent households. In addition to that, a lot of women will not be separated from their children to begin with. So when you couple those two things together, you have a really heavy weight on where the kids go.
I agree with you on that point, but a lot of men will then say things like, there's drama, that's why I don't want to be with a single mother, I don't want the financial burden. So that still falls. If there is an agreement between two parents and they are co-parenting with no obstruction, then why is it that an outside man feels that is problematic?
Well, I don't think I think that can go for a single woman as well.
For 100%,
you know,
100%.
Seeing a man with kids and saying, "Oh no, he got baby mama drama."
Yeah, but that's so. But why are there not these conversations happening with the same sexes? Because why is it? I'm not understanding the attack on single mothers and maybe the opposition from women towards single fathers. Because then why isn't there I guess what I'm asking is, why is the conversation not happening to the same sexes? Why aren't men having conversations with men about how they treat mothers and women? And why aren't women, I guess, maybe having conversations about how they interact with men? Why is it that this talking happens from the opposite sex when the opposite sex is never really at the depth going to understand what it's like to be in those shoes? They can sympathize, they can experience it, but they can experience it from their perspective, but they will never know 1000% what it's like. Like, you can speak to what it's like being a single mother, what it's like, because you saw me as a single mother.
Yeah, I can, you know? I can,
but like,
I can speak to being a single person with no kids, interested in a woman who had kids. And I can't tell you that there was some conversation that happened in my household where it was like, you need to value women, you know, or you should value women that have kids, and things that you're suggesting should happen, even though I looked at you and I saw value in you, I never had those conversations.
Yeah.
It's just the way that my life evolved. I was actually quite the opposite. My father was, against, for him, speaking for himself, never said anything about me or how I should live my life. But he was very clear that he would never be interested in dating a woman who had kids. That's something that he just doesn't interest him.
Which is fine.
So you would think,
and to that point, I want it, since you brought your father as an example, your dad also had several children with several different women and then left those households.
Papa was a Rolling Stone. I mean,
but you're like crediting him. But
I'm not crediting it.
That's a perfect example. There, you said that your father was not willing to be with a woman that had children, but then he went along and had children with 4 different women.
Yeah, he was married 4 times. And my point to this is that you were suggesting that fathers should be having conversations with younger males, children, or even men in general.
That's part of it. I mean, also like you having conversations with some of your friends.
Okay.
Same sex.
And what I'm trying to tell you is that anyone, I never had that conversation with anybody. It was just by chance that because I was looking for something serious and I was not finding what I was looking for in the women that I was dating, and those women just happened to be single women with no kids, that it wasn't until I met and dated a woman with a child that I felt something close to what it is that I was looking for, which was just stability and, not fucking playing games and stuff like that. There was a seriousness that went behind it. There was just nurturing. It was just all these things that I was looking for. And so that experience taught me like, whoa, there's something there. There's depth there. And so after that, I was very open to dating a woman with kids. So for me, it was an experience.
So why do you don't think these conversations are happening?
I think it's hard. I think it's hard to suggest that somebody be open to something that they haven't really experienced. I mean, it's not for everybody.
I think you're missing what I'm saying.
Maybe I am.
Okay, so I'm gonna create a scenario. Let's say you have a male friend, and he is a man that he's a single guy, no children, and he's talking shit about a woman who has children.
Okay.
Would you then enter in and would you then have a conversation with him?
I would, yeah.
Okay.
Me.
So why don't you think that those type of conversations are happening between men? Why don't you think men are saying to them, hey, fam, that's not for you? Great. No need to be like that. No need to say those. Like, why aren't men having these conversations? Because what I feel like is happening is the opposite. I think men are like pairing together and like spewing this hatred towards single mothers.
What I can tell you is 2 things that are definitely happening. These men that are making these comments are making them to men that feel the same way they do. So you just have these 2 like-minded people agreeing on something that they view as a negative.
Okay.
Actually, 3 things going on. You'll then have a situation where you may have someone like myself who is very open to dating a woman with kids, and they're speaking to someone who's speaking negatively about a woman with kids, and just to maintain bro code and not to make static, they're like, yeah, bro, I feel you, yeah, and just keep kind of quiet about their stance. And then you might have someone like myself who's gonna verbalize how they feel,
okay,
and speak up. So, being that there's not, I'm gonna assume this just from what I can think about the way that the world is, that the number of men who are open to dating women with kids is less than the men that are open to dating women with kids. So that just in all, the conversation is happening a lot less. I can't say that you're saying, why is it not happening? Yeah. I can't say that it isn't.
Yeah, I find that I'm going to tell you why I find that dynamic so fucking insane, because men will be have such opposition to dating women with children, but then will have no problem going and having children with multiple women.
So
how does that logic make even any fucking sense?
Because
one man will leave a woman that he's had children with and then only want to partner with another woman that doesn't have children.
All right. So
you get me?
I can't explain why a man would have multiple children with multiple women. I mean, it seems very irresponsible to me. But again, I don't know. Some men may have problems, with their way that they ejaculate, and
oh my God.
And listen, and just be making bad decisions and not really knowing they're not really knowing their bodies.
Okay.
I know my body very well.
Okay.
And so it's done me well to know myself up until this point where I've just had the one child that I planned on having, and that was with you.
Okay.
So what I'm saying to you is that if you take that, and this is not what I'm about to say they're not my words. It's something that I heard the other day, but it made a lot of sense. And it is that when a man hangs out with a woman, in most cases, I'm going to say largely, in order for him to really feel good about that experience, sex would be optimal about that experience. Like, men kind of need the sex portion of it, of an engagement with a woman, to really like say, wow, like that was like the best experience that I ever had. Women, on the opposite, don't need that to make it a great experience. So like, it's almost, so men are they're more driven towards encounters to end up sexual because of the great experience that it provides for them in the end. As to where a woman needs the great experience to even consider the sexual portion of it. You know what I mean? And she can have a great experience and like totally be cool with not even remotely thinking about the sex of it. So that could be a big driver in why men are just having kids, with multiple women.
And you know what? I'm not going to sit here and down men for making those individual choices. If a man wants to have if a man wants to have children with multiple women and those women are willing, those are his choices. But then do me a favor and shut your fucking mouth about other women that have children with other men, because that to me is someone throwing stones at a fucking glass house. And to your point about why a man may see an experience as optimal also blows my mind, because these are the same men that will say that a woman is less valuable because she has a high body count. But if you're looking to have sex, who the fuck are you having sex with? If not women. Like, I'm totally confused by that.
I agree. There's something about,
these double standards are ridiculous to me, and you can hear it from the tone in my voice. They frustrate me because I think what you said earlier had so much value to it. If we ignored these things, would they have any weight?
Right.
I know that's such a profound statement, but at the same time, it's so hard. Sometimes some of the quotes that you read, they're so profound and you're like, God, fuck, that really strikes me. But then when you think about the process that it takes to do those things, it's really hard. I think as a person that at one time was a single mother, I'm not going to look at another single father and talk shit about the value that he could potentially bring to a situation when I don't know this person from Adam. You know what I'm saying? So I appreciate your input on why men may think this way, but could you see how confounded that type of mentality is?
You have to couple that with that men are buffoons.
I don't think that they are, Evo.
No, but there's a stereotype that exists within that, but
don't perpetuate that stereotype.
I don't have to. Listen,
you're not a buffoon.
I don't have, but I'm not. Listen, I consider myself to be an exception to many rules.
Okay.
And and when I look at myself in the mirror, I wake up and I look at myself in the mirror. That is an objective of mine. It's something that I strive to do. When I see the masses of men acting a certain way, I just have an interest to be different. And so there's just a lot of dumb people out there to begin with. So, when you put that together with a bunch of bad decisions, not the greatest education, and platforms to say whatever the fuck you want, there you have it. You're gonna get this idiotic shit that there's just that's exists all over. It's everywhere. You can just pick up your phone and go to any platform and you'll just see this dumb shit being spewed out. And even more now because there's so many places to speak these things. You just see it.
Yeah.
As to where before, when none of these platforms exist, you might hear about it in your.
There was like
circle.
a petition going around, like, take away the mics from these men, bro.
Yeah, I mean, some of them need to have their mic shut off.
Yeah, like
Star and Buck Wild.
He's like, shut
his mic off.
Shut that man's mic
off. And you heard the fucking cleaver come down, just shoom.
They shut his mic off too.
Yeah, they did. So it's
I get
some of it. I mean, a lot of it is just dumb shit.
And I think what is so crazy about that whole thing is because then there are men out there who are really trying to be the best fathers that they can. And they got these biases following them that are ridiculous because men are seen as less capable.
Yeah, and
I don't think that men are buffoons.
And it's those are the ones that are not saying anything. They're just living their lives, doing what it is that they're supposed to be doing. Because
they're trying to do the right thing.
Yeah, and pushing forward. And it's almost not worth the energy to even try to, get on some of these platforms and get into it with some of these people and try to, make them think differently and things of that. Because you're just all you're concerned about is just doing right by those closest to you. Yeah. And that's all that really matters.
I think one of the things that I heard in the past couple of years was, if you want to make change, be that change.
Yeah.
So I live my life by that because I want the best things for my family and for my friends. I try to be that person so that they can see me living in that space, because I don't think anything you say is really going to change someone. Sometimes it's really valuable when someone sees it, right? You are a great example of a man that sees value in someone based on who they are, not versus what they can bring. You know what I mean? But I think I have also brought a lot of value to your life, and none of it is something that you could say, yo, you know how many watches I got, Evo, how many pairs of sneakers and all these material things. I know for certain that, in the end, you're not going to look back and think about those things.
Yeah, I tried to.
So like, I not to cut you off, I just feel like that is what men are missing. They're thinking that that is what they want from a woman versus these untangible things that are the most valuable. So whether or not she has kids or not,
I had an interesting conversation.
That can still happen.
I had an interesting conversation with one of the people in our comment section. Mm-hmm. And it was on the last video where we were talking about children and them children being baggage, and how a person with children shouldn't see themselves as having baggage, rather than see themselves as presenting an opportunity for someone to get to know them and their most valuable possessions. And somebody in the comments was like, how is it that they add value to me? I came into the situation, she had kids, I took on her and her kids, and I add value to them. This was somebody that I was clearly so insecure of themselves and what they brought to the table that they needed to constantly point out to themselves what they were doing for these people as self-acknowledgement. And was totally blinded by how much just him stepping into that situation made him a better person, made him a bigger person, made him more valuable to so many women out there that wish that they could meet someone that was big enough to open themselves up to them and their children, and bring value and add value to each other. I can't count the number of ways that I became more valuable. I became a better person by us being together, and by me being with you and the kids. How much more of a responsible person it made me, how much more of aware it made me, how much more caring it made me, how much more driven it made me. All of these things, they elevated from within me, that without that ingredient, I would have never baked into something as to what I am today. So I I feel like that it's purely a perspective thing, and a lot of these people really need to analyze themselves and give themselves more credit and realize that these situations make them a better person. Stepping into a relationship with someone who has kids, as long as your intentions are genuine when you go into it, that makes you such a great person. I feel like that people that step into those situations should be cherished. Because it's not an easy thing to do. It's not for everybody.
Yeah, even if the dynamic is if the other parent is present or not, it could be really difficult, because if the other parent is present, then you have to figure out how to navigate that. If the parent is not present, then there's a lot that goes into it.
Even more so, yeah. I mean, if you're doing co-parenting or if you're doing like a blended family type of situation, even more power to you, because that takes an insane amount of emotional control and self and confidence. You really have to be confident as a person to know that it's all going to work out, and if it doesn't, you're still okay with that.
Yeah.
It's not going to put you down on one knee. Like, it's not over. You're going to be okay. And so it was just sad to hear that person talk about that. But one question that I wanted to ask you, and I just feel like that it's important to know, is what is it that you define a single parent to be? What's a single parent to you? Because I feel like that there's so many different dynamics of a single parent that it's actually can be a subjective thing. I just want to know what your opinion on it, because I don't feel like there's a real definition for it.
I think I can only speak to that from experience, and in my case, I was a single parent because I was the primary caretaker of my children, and their dad was what you would consider the absentee parent. He was somewhat in their life, but not really. And I took on the majority of the responsibilities. I would consider that a single parent.
So someone who is single parent in the household that has the majority of the responsibilities.
That was in my regard.
Right.
I'm not saying that is because I know other women that are co-parenting, but they're still single.
Yeah. So it's funny because another dynamic to it would be someone who has potentially adopted children. There is no, they're a single person who's adopted children. There is no other parent. And so to them, that's truly what single parenting is. And they may view other people who are co-parenting as not really single parenting. You have somebody who may be widowed, and so she's left with the children and potentially really never moving on. So to them, like, that's really single parenting. But my answer to that is, why can't it all be single parenting? Because as I was doing some research, I just found that there is no real definition to it because of people's experience. They're going to view other people's situation as them holding more weight than others, and therefore kind of feel like what they're feeling and their situation is more true than to others. But I just feel like that it's all single parent. It's all single parenting. If the two parents are not together under the same roof, then at some point you are a single parent.
Yeah. I actually think that's a great way to close this. Now that we know exactly what a single parent is.
Yes. So don't ever discredit yourself. If you're in any one of those situations, don't let anybody tell you any less. Okay? You're doing your thing.
And if they do, hit me up and I'll give them my phone number and I give them a fucking piece of my mind because, I obviously got a lot to say about that. But that actually brings us to the end of the show. As always, I enjoyed having this conversation with you. I know at certain points it got a little tense on my end. I'm sorry. I'm a little passionate.
Sensitive subject.
I'm a little passionate about this. I can't help myself. But again, evil brings balance, right? Like I said before, the yin to the yang type shit. You know what I'm saying? But until next Friday, ladies and gentlemen, peace out.